I'm about to spend $10,000 in the next 4 minutes buying the craziest transparent tech on the internet, and I'm going to use it to build the most decked out, practically invisible desk setup on the planet. Right here. To try to answer a very simple question. Transparent tech used to be everywhere in the 90s. It suddenly disappeared, and it's only now started to make a massive comeback. So I want to find out, is this stuff actually good, or is it just an overhyped gimmick that's clearly fueled by nostalgia? Transparent Gadgets 2025. This is basically a complete modern reimagining of the original transparent Game Boy. It's like 15 years of gaming childhood is coming back to me. I'm buying this. I remember the transparent PS2 controller back in the day, and it's crazy seeing how much controllers have evolved since then. Xbox is keeping the dream alive. That's such a sick name as well. The Ghost Cypher Special Edition. Okay, add to cart. There's a transparent Nintendo Switch controller too, and it's actually got LEDs planted onto the circuit board. I wonder if you'll be able to see the mechanisms of the joysticks and the buttons through the controller. Okay, so while I game, I gotta eat. Transparent kitchen tech. Why did this come up with 0 relevant results? This is the first time Google's just been like, you want me? Oh my God. Oh my God, the price. So this is by the company Bugatti, and they've made a cooker called the Noun, which cooks food between 2 sheets of glass. And this isn't just like a visual thing, it's a completely different way of cooking food, which they're saying is healthier and more precise. Oh, you qualify for free shipping. Well, thank you very much. Ooh. Clear ice maker. So the device itself, not transparent. What it produces, 100% transparency. It sounds like a whole load of rubbish. Like, ice is clear. The fact that you can see this person's hand that clearly through the glass, that really emphasizes the difference between this and a normal ice cube. I got sidetracked by my appetite. If we're trying to build a full transparent setup, what are the key pieces? Transparent keyboard. Oh, now we're talking. The Cool Killer CK68. Why stop at 68?
Daddy, chill.
It's very weird, but I'm also intrigued by the whole presentation of it. Wait, are they plugging the wire into the suitcase? That I've never seen before. We are done. The Q9 creamy? Why is it creamy? Is it just me, or does this also just look insanely ugly? I feel like this is one of the risks of transparent tech. You're exposing what's inside, and it may not always look good. Transparent mouse. Oh yeah, this is more like it. And I like that. Look at this tiny little battery indicator there. That's a functional benefit of the thing being transparent. Oh, there's another one here. But this one actually has keyboard keys instead of your mouse buttons. Okay, let me just split screen this using the fancy Opera browser, our sponsor. Yeah, let's just buy both. Oh yeah. Wait, Lenovo made a transparent laptop so that you can sit in a coffee shop and every single other person knows exactly what you're getting up to. That's actually got to be the single worst product to try and make transparent. Okay, let's try this. Aria AI. What are the coolest categories of transparent products I could buy? Earbuds. That's a shout. Transparent earphones. Why are there actually tons? This is giving me an idea though. We should do an earphone battle. The Nothing Ear. These are the best earphones that this company currently makes. So we've got the Beats by Dre's, which take a slightly different approach with everything being translucent. It's kind of cool that they've even applied that to the ear tips. Oh, then Sony, the WF-C710Ns. How does a company that got it so right with PlayStations get it so wrong with audio? Really liking this transparent audio stuff. Let's go into speakers. So I have in the past bought one of the small speakers from this transparent company. I think it's time to buy the flagship, the $1,200 sound system. There's actually some very interesting stuff here that I think we need to revisit in some other videos. And now, transparent turntable, and it's another $1,300. Do you know what this stuff makes me think though? You know when you see ultra luxury pricing like this, can you get it cheaper? Let's say we hopped onto AliExpress. There's quite a lot of stuff here which really feels like we have transparent speakers at home. Wait a second. Retro transparent subwoofer. Hi-fi speaker. I clicked the black speaker. $281. This is less than a quarter of the price of the other one. So we've got to buy both and compare them. All right, let's create a new tab island because we are desperately going to need some battery to power this stuff. The Shargeek 170. Do you need some charge?
Charge.
Yeah, charge. Would you like some charge? It's the Ice Mag 2, which is a power bank with active fan cooling. Yeah, I think we'll take one of those. Ooh, they've got a Shargeek 300. The next gen Power Beast. Coming soon. Okay, they know how to get my details. Excuse me? The Liberty wireless charger has 16 overlapping charging coils so that you can put your devices anywhere on this pad and not need to put them in a specific spot to charge. This was Apple's exact idea with AirPower until they tried making it over the course of a few years until eventually deciding it was practically impossible. So either this company just has a lower bar for what they consider an acceptably working product, or they've done what Apple couldn't do, which is a pretty big deal. So that feels like all the key pillars of our setup. Is there anything now that's just random and crazy? I'll tell you what isn't crazy, the state of my browser tabs right now. This is a sponsor, but I'm not exaggerating when I say that when I used to buy products like this, it was a mess. I'd get completely lost. Whereas now with the Opera browser, I have like 50 tabs open and you just can't tell. Link below to download it for free. The Polaroid Sun camera. So this isn't even a product that you can normally buy. This is an engineer's model used to show you how the Polaroid works. I feel like this will only be available for a small window of time, and I should buy it right now. This is like the digital 2025 counterpart. Someone's made a pack of transparent playing cards. I feel like we have to buy this just to try and understand why someone would make this. Yeah. That was a good time. We're back. It's been 3 weeks and it's time to test some tech. So the best products are going to make it onto this transparent setup, which should become something that's never been done before. And as usual, the very best product will earn its place in the Mr. Who's the Boss Hall of Fame. So let's go from cheapest to most expensive, which means we start with the two computer mice. So the first one is the Keyboard Keys mouse at $10, and then we got the almost fully transparent mouse at $17. Well, definitely cooler in person than those website listings. Gotta say, this is exciting. The idea of proper keyboard mechanical switches every single time you press your mouse buttons. Oh no. It's just a normal mouse click. Which means it looks stupid, and it is stupid. I'm gonna give each product a transparency score based on how well I think it uses its transparency. And this gets a solid 6. It is completely clear and the lighting is surprisingly cool. But apart from these battery lights, you can't see most of the inner workings because of all this plastic in front of it. Which this is actually a lot better at. Look at this, you can see the microchips on the circuit board, plus the entire clicking mechanism. It's quieter, but more sophisticated than the other one. 7 out of 10. It's basically like a more interesting looking version of the Apple Magic Mouse with an actually usable charging port location. Apple, what did you do? So, weird keyboard mouse can go into this shelf here, and this feels like a pretty great first addition to our setup. Okay, jumping ahead a little, because I think this will take some time to work, the Claris Ice Cube Maker. This is the only one where the device itself isn't transparent, but what it produces is claiming to be the highest tier of transparent. Because if you really think about it, the vast majority of ice cubes that you see are actually pretty cloudy. And that happens when you use water that has lots of impurities in it, you cool the water too quickly, or you freeze the water from multiple directions. And it's the latter problem that this machine addresses. It freezes the water in layers from the bottom up, which is what allows gases to rise to the top instead of pushing those gases and impurities into the middle of the cube, which is what happens in a traditional omnidirectional ice cube tray. Those are some chunky ice cubes then. A whole bottle doesn't even make 4. So we topped it up. All right, off we go. It says chilling 0 hours, 0 minutes, which means it's counting upwards. Why would I need to know how long my ice has been cooking? So I guess we'll just see when it's ready. And then when that's done, we can add the ice cube to this little cocktail over here, which is definitely not water. And now, while we wait for that water to freeze, let's try and wrap our heads around why someone actually made the Aqua playing cards. Even the packaging is transparent, and they look, oh my God. So they're made with plastic cardstock and actually embossed with transparent ink, with this ultra smooth finish to make them easy to shuffle and fan and do all those crazy card things that I used to think one day would be how I would find my girlfriend. You can tell they've got a little more flex than a normal set of cards. They're quite pliable. I do have one trick. Okay, so the card is there, now the card is gone. Wait, I can't see. Can you actually see the card? I'm really struggling here. Like, this isn't gonna work for any card game where you need to hide what cards you have. It's barely gonna work for games where you need to see your own cards. They are waterproof, so I guess they're like drinking game proof, but then you have one too many drinks and you're not gonna be able to tell a 9 from a 5. Maybe you could say that these were just meant to be a display item, but then when you actually put them all together, which is what you do if you were displaying them, you can't see through the deck. Anyway, this is actually, ironically, like a 2 out of 10 transparency. Not to mention that it's yellowing a little, so it just looks bad, to be honest. Honestly, feels destined for the clearance section. Enough of playing cards. I think it's time for some proper gaming now. So, how do these controllers shape up? First is the Afterglow Nintendo Switch controller, which is worth $50. And then the Xbox Series controller, Ghost Cypher Edition, which is $80. Whoa, that looks premium. I want a bit of a roller coaster of emotions right now. I mean, the Switch controller is freaking sick. I mean, apart from this little black backplate here, you can see everything. You can see the actuator beneath the joysticks. You got a little bit of battery on show over here. You can see the rumble vibration modules, and even the fact that they've covered them with a little bit of foam, which I guess is there to reduce the rattling that they make on the inside. And the soldering is just pristine. Oh yeah, check this out. When have you ever seen a controller be able to do this? Oh my God, a child inside me is screaming. This is so cool. I sound like a child too. Best part of this is that these LEDs, they also have a functional benefit. They'll flash red when the controller's on low battery, and they will go green when the controller's fully charged. Put all of that together, and I think we are at a 9.5 out of 10 transparency rating. Okay, transparent gaming session on a transparent TV. The TV looks like a floating hologram. So does this controller make me a better gamer? It's actually really enjoyable to play with. Little bit on the sticky side because it is glossy plastic, but really like these high triggers. They're almost like bat ears. But it means your fingers rest quite naturally higher up on the controller. It's got extra controls at the back with these paddles, which is configured to a taunt. Point being, not just a pretty face, actually also good value controller. So that's the Switch controller, but this Xbox controller is actually at the same time a very good example of the downside of transparency. Because this is a controller where you can't see nearly as much. You know, it's got this inner silvery shell that's covering most of the components. The finish itself is much more translucent than it is transparent. I'd only give this a transparency score of like 4 out of 10. But then does that less transparency actually make it the more practical controller? It's gonna get less sticky, it's zero maintenance, there's no fingerprints, it doesn't feel like it's gonna pick up scratches over time. So kind of, yeah, like there's definitely an audience for this, but me personally, I am just too attached to this Afterglow controller and the fact that it's literally cheaper than Nintendo's own. So Xbox, you are unfortunately getting relegated. So what's the best power bank? I ended up slightly splurging on this Charge website, I guess because transparency is kind of their thing. So first up, their $70 MagSafe 10,000 mAh power bank, which looks pretty cool, I'd say. It's really sick to be able to see the enclosure of the USB-C port. You've got this cooling fan, some copper coil, presumably for extra heat conduction. Oh, this is smart. There's a phone stand baked in. Does that also mean you can flick it sideways to use standby? Yes, it does. Okay, to be completely transparent with you, I think this is a good attempt at this kind of product, but I'm just not sold on the idea of this product. Both from a transparency perspective, you know, because most of the thing is battery, you're not really seeing a lot with the whole thing being clear. I'd go 4 out of 10 transparency. The main thing is just the efficiency. This is a 10,000 mAh cell. The thing's massive, like, that's practically tripling the thickness of my phone. But even though 10,000 mAh sounds like it should be able to charge my iPhone's 4,685 mAh battery 2 and a bit times over, the reality is quite different. Like trying to wirelessly charge like this wastes so much energy that you will most likely end up with 0.9 to 1 charges of this iPhone out of it. To me, wireless charging feels like an acceptable compromise when you're at home with access to unlimited mains electricity, but for a travel power bank where you have very limited capacity and you need to make the most of that capacity, it just feels to me like it makes no sense. But then we have the current flagship battery, the SharGeek 170, which is 24,000 mAh and triangular. Apparently the prism shape is inspired by Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon cover. I'm not so sure about that. Feels like they went, wanna make a triangle, and then came up with the justification. Well, you can absolutely see a lot more here. Somewhat let down by this battery area, which is frosted instead of clear. What are they trying to hide? Ooh, software looks a little bit calculator-like, especially for something that's so futuristic in all other aspects. But what is really cool about this is that the display is actually planted onto the circuit board. It's just another one of the components like everything else you see here. So it makes you feel like this had to be transparent to work the way that it does. But then we can go next gen with the SharGeek 300. This thing is a proper monstrosity. Like one of the first things the site says is literally overkill power. Have we ever seen a RGB LED strip on a power bank before? So this has the same 24,000 milliamp hour capacity as the other one, but the extremity comes in how fast it can release that power. Because this battery bank has 300 watts of max output. I've yet to see anything close to that high for a power bank like this that can slip in a backpack. And what that means is you could charge not one, but two 140 watt, 16-inch MacBook Pros at the same time at max speed. Also, thanks to this DC output port over here, things that a normal power bank couldn't, like power tools, like a monitor, like a Wi-Fi router. And it's if you're going to do those kinds of things that something like this becomes more worth it. Ooh, does look like they fixed the display though. This is actually like the nicest display I've ever seen on a power bank. And while technically it's kind of more blocked off than the other one in terms of transparency, I do rate the fact that you can see the batteries clearly. I think for me, the special thing about transparent tech is the ability to look at the key components while they're in their natural place. It's like kind of the benefit of seeing animals in a safari versus a zoo, as a strange example. And so for a power bank, battery is like the key working component, which means I think this has earned a place on our esteemed transparent setup. And now the time has come for the earphone battle, starting with the Sony WFC710Ns, which are $120. And yeah, definitely not the most polished unboxing experience. Feels like this needed a couple more rounds of refinement. At $150 then, the Nothing Ear Buds. And this isn't any kind of special edition. This design is just kind of what Nothing does. And then finally, the Beats Studio Buds Plus. These are $170, and I'm very curious to compare these to the others. Because while historically companies like Sony have had this reputation of cult following, enthusiast-grade audio, Beats are kind of the opposite, with more of a reputation of overpriced tech designed for the mainstream. Talking transparency, I actually think the Beats win this by a landslide. You could even say it beats them, or you could not. I do wish it wasn't frosted, but even then, you can see like everything. You can see the battery in here, you can see the earbuds through the case, you can see all the magnets and the housing for those magnets. 7 out of 10. I gotta say, I'm a little surprised. You know how Apple owns Beats, and Apple is almost famous for how they don't like to show how their things work, they just want you to know that they work. For a company like that to make a transparent product like this, which really just reminds you that it's not magic, it's just a bunch of components on a circuit board, I didn't see it coming. Anyway, the Nothings, I'd probably give a 6 to. You can't really see anything in the case, which is a bit of a bummer, but I do think the earbuds themselves pull off the transparency really well. You can feel the effort that's gone into specifically building the internals to look good while transparent, as opposed to the Beats, which feel a bit more like they were intended to be a non-transparent product, but just have a transparent variant. Then the Sonys, I would say, have the weakest transparency effect. I think the blue color takes a lot of the impact away from the transparency. It's a little surprising that the cabling inside also looks a bit disorganized, but which one sounds the best? They sound basically the same. There are micro differences, yes, like Nothings lean a little bit more on bass than the other two. But that means then that Sony's reputation for audio is deserved. These do sound every bit as detailed and every bit as lively for less money. The only annoying thing is they have a smaller battery than the other two. And I can literally see through their own transparent shell that there is empty space on either side to expand it. An unfortunate self-own. So ultimately, let's put away the Sonys, let's put away the Nothings. I'm actually going to keep the Beats because these also have the best noise cancellation. And to keep our tech topped up, this is probably one of the most overkill gadgets I have ever gone for, with not one, not two, but 16 charging coils. So you know how I've been talking about how cool it is to see the key working components in action? This is it. This is all of them. Admittedly, you don't get to see the circuit boards or through the thing, so it isn't the most transparent, but this feels like really intentional design. I'd actually go as far as to say it's the most handsome product we've seen so far. Please be good, please be good, please be good, please be good. Okay, so you put one pair of AirPods in the middle, it charges pretty much instantly. What if you put a second pair of AirPods and you put it at the end? That actually doesn't work, so you have to nudge it in until it's directly over one of the charging coils, and then it picks up. Doesn't this completely defeat the entire basis of the product? And that means, like, it's not going to work with 3. is 2 devices max. What about 1 pair of AirPods and 1 phone? This is probably the most realistic use case. Phone's not charging. Now it's charging. But now the AirPods aren't charging. It does feel a little crazy that despite the ridiculous number of coils, it can only charge 2 devices simultaneously. This might actually be the most inefficient way to charge a product, like both from an energy perspective, but also a cost perspective. This was $150. There is a hidden USB-A port here to add in a watch charger. It just feels clunky for something that's otherwise completely nailed design. I really wanted to put this onto the setup. It's such a showpiece. Unfortunately, that's pretty much all it is. The paper shoot camera. So this is a very different take on the camera for people who want to disconnect. The thing's got no screen, and like the name suggests, it's kind of shaped like a piece of paper, folded up. Frickin' phenomenal transparency, I gotta say. Like, you're seeing the entirety of both sides of this circuit board, which it's just cool because that is every single component needed to make a modern digital camera work. As for the actual photo quality, so we got a switch here, which is how you determine what filter you're going to use. It feels very strange to be using a viewfinder that's not actually showing you the image you're getting. It's just literally a gap. So I'm taking a photo of the top 3 shelves. Let's hope the image quality is better than the sound effects. Oh yeah, so you can't actually check the shot on the camera. So we eject the SD card. Oh well, this is incredibly fiddly to get into. There you go. Wait, is this the image? That is absolutely terrible. Featuring my finger. Yeah, lighting, colors, alignment, and it just looks completely different to the shot I was expecting to get. So I love the idea. The thing looks beautiful, but in practice feels a bit too gimmicky to recommend. This shelf is becoming more and more precariously balanced with every additional product. So we picked out our mouse quite a lot earlier, but at $190 now, it's finally time for the accompanying keyboard. And I'm pretty excited about this one because just look at this unboxing experience. A fully transparent briefcase, which now I think about it is possibly the most useless object conceivable outside of this one use case, but I love it. I don't really know what to think about this. I feel like when I look at this font and these little drawings on the keys and the whimsical quotes around the keyboard, it makes me feel like they're going for cozy vibes. But then, on the other hand, you see the name Cool Killer, and you see this crazy transparency with a mirror at the base, and then each key having this slightly cloudy but mostly clear look that makes it feel like you're typing on a sheet of ice cubes. It kind of feels like it's at odds with itself. Let's turn it on. Oh my God. Wow. I actually think that's the single most impressive keyboard lighting I have ever seen. It's just so all-encompassing. The fact that the lighting isn't being broken up by individual opaque keys. So it's not a completely transparent keyboard, but I think it uses the transparency it has really well. I would actually say 9 out of 10. This is where the fun begins. That is delightful. It's got a fantastic sound signature, but at the same time, every key feels very precisely guided. It feels like you're operating a piece of professional machinery that tells you the Arctic belongs to the polar bears. And it's all finished off with this mini OLED display, which can show CPU and GPU temperatures and time, or you can customize it. So I wouldn't say it's like suddenly my favorite keyboard ever because of the font, because of the fact that the keys are quite glossy and therefore a little bit stickier than I would like, but absolutely a high-tier keyboard worthy of this setup. Now, I have never really been a huge retro gamer. I do have like amazing memories of gaming when I was growing up, but every time I've tried to actually pick up those old consoles to replay those games, it's never lived up to my memory of it. So the thing that I'm curious about is, can the Analog Pocket change that? So this can play Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance games straight from the cartridge, and in a way better than the original consoles could. So for this video, I have commemoratively prepped a transparent version of one of my favorite games back in the day, Mario Kart. Oh well, that sounds pretty low res. Oh my God, just browsing through these menus takes me back so much. Whole game literally has 8 characters. That's wild. It's actually way lower resolution than I remember. I can't believe this used to be the pinnacle of handheld gaming. It really is quite tough to see what's happening. Okay, so 2 thoughts. A, this does actually do a really good job of modernizing the experience to take away some of the original pain points. Like, this screen is shockingly bright. It's like 10 times the resolution of the original Game Boy and like a higher pixel density than just about any modern smartphone. And it's Gorilla Glass, which is the same protection standard that those phones use. But is this modernization actually making me want to play more of this old Mario Kart? Not really. If anything, having everything else feel modern just draws attention to how much games have evolved since then. Oh, this is really cool though. There's an option to switch between the display styles of the original Game Boy Advance SP or the original Game Boy Advance LCD, and it recreates that look. It's a very nice touch, I'll give it that. Would I ever pick this up instead of a Nintendo Switch 2? Probably not for any length of time. The only benefit really is that it's a lot more portable. So if I was heading on a short, transparent trip, then yeah, sure, I could entertain this for a few days. But that's the only way that it makes it to the setup. But now, at over $1,000, it's time to go back in time. This Polaroid is like OG transparent tech. I wanted to find out how much the thing cost when it launched in 1981, but I couldn't because, let this sink in, this thing came out before the internet. Wow. I feel like the really cool thing about that too is that this is, you could argue, the era in which there was the most benefit to tech being transparent. There's just so much happening here. And because there are moving parts inside, this is one of those situations where we'll be able to use the transparency to hopefully be able to see how the thing prints. But let's finish the setup first, and then we'll use this to take a photo of the whole thing together. It'll be unique. I can't quite believe the weight of this transparent speaker box, especially considering I'm not imagining the actual thing itself is particularly large. Oh wow, literally includes a pair of white cotton gloves. I guess so you don't get 1 billion fingerprints on the tempered glass. I did think this speaker felt unusually expensive when I bought it, but seeing this presentation, I think these guys know who they're trying to sell to. They're going for the uber luxury customer who also needs to be a bodybuilder. I don't know why I thought I could pick the thing up from this angle. But that uber luxury approach makes this a particularly interesting comparison because in theory, this is the exact same speaker for a fifth of the price. So does it make any difference at all, apart from the very obvious gap in presentation quality? The last one was pristine. This one is, well, put it this way, the packaging has one purpose. And why does the whole thing smell like smoke? It's like the things just come from a tobacco factory. I think it's pretty fair to say that these are high on the transparency scale. I'm going to go 8.5 out of 10 for both. Because in a way you could say, well, all the circuitry is in this literal black box and you can't actually see any of the components. But most of the speaker is actually transparent. And in a speaker, it's not just space. All of this emptiness is actually an acoustic tool. In a speaker, it is this that actually determines the profile of the sound. So I would actually say it's very cool to be able to see that. Do you think this is the real one? Like genuinely, can you actually tell which is the real speaker? Well, spoiler, this is the real one. But the only real way you can tell visually is like, there's one cable going to each driver instead of two, and some slight font differences on the front. How do the knobs feel? Oh yeah, that's good. It's a little stiffer, but it doesn't feel bad. Right, actually, one pretty clear difference between the two is this is plastic, that's glass. You can hear a pretty clear sound difference, right? And I wonder if that affects the acoustics as well. Okay, sound test. Let's start with the real speaker. Okay, I'd say detail level is good, but the bass is what's surprising. It's phenomenal for the size of the speaker, and it's actually kind of a design flex that they can have so much reverberation in that subwoofer while every other part of the speaker is like not moving at all. Right, let's move over to the fake speaker. This is, in a way, the more interesting one. Okay, I would say it's actually quite significantly different sound. It's like 1 layer less of detail and 2 layers less of bass. Then again, if you're not an audiophile and you're more interested in this because of the design, then it is, I would say, 65% of the sound and 90% of the design for 20% of the price. So it's definitely not worth discarding. So we'll keep the real one. The fake one can go at the base of the shelf. This setup is actually looking insane. Now we just need the stuff that's gonna go right in the middle. And that is where this bad boy comes in. The transparent turntable. From the same transparent company with the same white gloves again. They've really worked out a very clear formula. I feel like a Japanese game dev right now. here we have it. Wow. Okay, this paired with this transparent speaker is quite the visual spectacle. Oh yeah. Did I pay $100 to load some copyright-free music onto a transparent vinyl just for this one scene? You betcha. So how transparent is this actual player itself? Not particularly. It's very nice to look at, don't get me wrong, but unlike the glass on the inside of here, which I would argue is a key working part of the tech, this glass is just glass. It's a stand. And pretty much every relevant component is boxed up and hidden away. You don't really see anything particularly fun. And action. Ugh. I just love interacting with all the moving parts in a vinyl record player. I'm sure that's a big part of why they've even made a resurgence. And then the second you lift the arm, the vinyl starts spinning. So now we lower it.
Let go and let me love, let me let go and let me love, let me let go and let me love, let me let go and let me love.
There's something about the vinyl experience that does something to my soul. I think I have a similar feeling with this as I did to the keyboard, which is like, it's a bit weird seeing something as futuristic as this speaker, but then being played by something as old school as this vinyl player. That also is going to cut into the pristine sound quality that this thing was so good at. But it has that warmth and the crackle, and it's got a baked-in preamp. So it's minimalist in the sense that it looks clean, but it's also minimalist in the sense that there's one less thing that you have to put onto your desk. For the record, I like it. It can stay here. Right, are you ready for the most bizarre product of the entire video? The $3,000 Bugatti Noun Transparent Cooker. Smart cooking with glass. I really do have no idea what to expect. But I will say the packaging quality is encouraging. So this opens up here. Oh, the packaging was encouraging. Okay, not quite as smoothly as I wanted to handle the most expensive cooker I've ever laid eyes on. Got a scrubber over here, and this is the Noun itself. In about 18 different pieces. This might actually be the most futuristic kitchen gadget I've ever seen. It looks like something that should be on Luke Skywalker's moisture farm. That's a Star Wars reference.
Is anyone going to get that? You could say it's a Rogue One.
That is great, that is great. Ooh, I love the feeling of automation here and the way the display bends around the edges. So here's the idea. You take whatever food it is that you want to cook and you place it into the slot here. So in my case, this is all the ingredients required to make a burger: bread, vegetables, and even meat. And if it can actually cook all of these things together in one go in a way that you can consistently see what you're cooking and when it's done, that would actually be kind of cool. Oh yeah, this was a slight bummer, but meat and anything that can release significant moisture has to go in a bag, which somewhat takes away from the transparency. Start. And it's apparently going to cook this in a way that's even healthier than a normal cooker, because there's no fire, there's no oil, there's no smoke. Come to think of it, that AliExpress speaker could have learned a thing or two from these guys. The thing's sizzling already. They're calling this GlassTech hot semiconductor technology, which is a very weird name for essentially direct contact with the glass, which is heated using the naturally occurring far infrared waves. No way. Oh my God, how do we take out just one product? The bread's already done. Oh yes, right. So the problem with cooking tech like that because it's contact-based, any part of the food that doesn't make contact, not very well cooked. I will say, meat bag aside, I would give this a very high transparency rating, but it's cool to be able to see your food cook in 360 degrees. That's functionally useful compared to like a frying pan or an oven where you get specifically one angle. It's opening on its own, that's pretty cool. And then it's presumably gonna raise the food out. I feel like I have force powers. Okay, well, bon appetit. Courgette's looking a little dry. It's a bit of a sad sight, isn't it? And then you can tell the pepper has really suffered because of this whole direct contact cooking. Like, there's parts here which you could argue are raw, while there's parts here that are practically singed. So yes, this isn't the ideal environment in that there are foods of slightly different thicknesses, but then when are they exactly the same thickness? You're still gonna have this problem. This is the critical one because if the meat is not cooked properly, you could have a very serious health outcome. Okay, no, this is actually looking pretty great. I suppose that's part of the benefit of the bag. It's going to steam it from the inside. Okay, here it goes. As expected, it is healthy. Unlike doing things on like a barbecue, this adds zero flavor to your food. The vegetables are dry, but then the meat is really moist. So all in all, it's not bad, but it's not great for $3,000. I think our ice machine is done. It's been almost 7 hours, so this is a pretty big moment. So we take out the ice cube tray. Okay, wait, I think we got something. Holy moly. absolutely next level. Okay, I get that it's easier to make a transparent ice cube than it is a transparent piece of tech, but still, if what we're actually rating is the transparency, then I see no way that this isn't a 9.5 out of 10. It practically disappears inside the glass. You can actually see the texture of my fingers through the other side of the ice cube. Okay, well that was a lot more impressive than I was expecting, but then who has $500 and also 6 to 8 hours per set of ice cubes to invest? Right, let's commemorate this with our 40-plus-year-old camera that feels like it's about to pop any second. That's a proper viewfinder right there. Okay, so, oh my God, flipping egg. That went from 0 to 100 very fast. And it is still, to this day, one of the coolest things seeing it happen from the inside. And the photo itself is, yeah, that is what I was expecting. There's one problem with a transparent film camera. Light can penetrate the camera's body and completely overexpose the film. So this product is pure design and functionally useless. What a great memory of this video. So this isn't making the Hall of Fame. Now, as for what is, I've been umming and ahhing between this $1,200 transparent speaker and this $50 Nintendo Switch controller. I think they're both spectacles. The difference is that while here you can get equivalent sound for a lot less money than this, the same is not necessarily true for controllers. This is an A+ controller while also really making the most of this transparency. So congratulations, Afterglow.